as far as like looking for a high quality girl, I think first a lot of guys are really fixated on just attractiveness. And there's nothing wrong with that. You need the initial attraction, but you also need the girl that you want to hang out with on Saturday morning too, not just Friday night.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Jeremy Kersten Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Kersten. Today's guest is Ryan Felman, the man and author behind the brand The Path to Manliness on social media, mainly Twitter and Instagram. And today we're going to be talking about a lot of the troubles that men are facing today in society. We're going to be talking about bad habits that they fall into, laziness, gaming, all that kind of stuff holding you back. Talking about women, dating, relationships, diet, exercise, getting out in nature, other good things for your mental health, and a whole lot more. So stay tuned, and I think you're really going to enjoy this one. If you do, make sure you share it with a friend. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe by smashing that subscribe button. Click that like button. It helps get this video out to more people. And be sure to turn on the notifications so you can be notified each time we upload a new episode. Let's go ahead and get into the interview. All right, guys, we are back with another episode. Today, we've got Ryan Felman. He is the author of Reclaim Your Manhood, the young man's guide to navigating their 20s. He's a writer, social media marketer, obstacle course racer, and Taekwondo enthusiast. He's a voice for men and masculinity in a world that wants to attack men and their traditional masculinity. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on the Jeremy Kersten Show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jeremy. I'm excited to be here, man. It's always fun doing these shows.
Yeah, so we got a lot to talk about. I like all the stuff that you put out, man. I think it's definitely needed in the world that we're in. You've got a lot of good tips on just mental health, physical health, diet, nutrition, women, dating, all kinds of good stuff. So first, just kind of
everything a young man needs.
Yeah. Let's start out with how Path to Manliness started and kind of your story to how you started that brand.
Yeah. So I don't tell my story as much as I used to because I've kind of moved past it. But I don't know, 5 years ago now or so, I went through a divorce, and it was tough. It put me through a lot of stress, and it cost me a lot of money, and it cost me about almost a year of my life pretty much. And every minute I was going through, it was just like the worst time ever. But I look back on it, and it was necessary. It was me kind of hitting a rock bottom and realizing that I needed to change some things in my life. So I was, I didn't really have like a real serious problem like a lot of guys do, where they realize they're a drug addict or an alcoholic or something like that. I never had that kind of moment, but I wasn't really pushing myself in life. I was living like most guys do. I was going to work 9 to 5, drinking beer on the weekends, watching football, and just kind of slowly eating myself into an early grave, right? Just getting fatter every year. So I kind of realized I needed to change some things. And I stopped watching so much sports. I started like actually spending my weekends out doing stuff, spending time with my family, going on bike rides, ultimately leading that into running. And I started drinking way less and eating better. And over the course of almost a year, I lost about 25 pounds. I wiped out like 30 grand in debt. I started writing online, and I authored my first book. So it was a pretty drastic change. And what was the big key thing was, as I was doing all this, I was documenting my process, and I was writing online, explaining what I was doing, what was working. And honestly, I never wrote until I went through my divorce, but I was really struggling with stuff, and I was getting angry, I was getting emotional, I was just getting upset. And my attorney's assistant recommended journaling, and I kind of laughed at her and said like, that's for teen girls, isn't it? And then I started thinking about it more, and I'm like, I don't know what else to do. I'm gonna give it a shot. And it became like an addiction. It became something that really helped me grow. And I got to a point where I had like a whole moleskin notebook written out. And I was like, some of this stuff's kind of useful. It'd be kind of neat to share it online with other guys that might be going through a similar thing. And I was lucky, and I picked a good name with Path to Manliness, and
For sure.
it definitely, like, it tells you right away what it is.
Yeah.
And I started putting some content out there, and like almost immediately it was a hit. uh I think my first article I posted online got like 3 views in the first day, and like the second one got like 30, and then like the third article I wrote got like a few hundred or 1,000 or something like that. So like there was definitely a need for it. I had to get better at figuring out how to reach people, but people were finding me like from the beginning.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Like you said, just the brand is very self-explanatory, and it's in an area where there's a lot of need. I was listening to like Theo Vaughn and Jocko Willenick talk on a podcast, and Theo kind of brought that up. He was like, man, between like Jordan Peterson and Jocko and
Yeah.
what's his name? Stay Hard. Damn it. Can't think of it right now. I was just listening to the audiobook earlier. But anyways, there's just a lot of guys, that are talking
David
about
Goggins.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Goggins. Book, stay hard. But yeah, man, it's just like all that stuff is taken off in a big way. And I don't know, it's just fascinating to see. So you definitely picked a good niche.
Yeah, it's interesting. Somebody mentioned the other day another website. And I'm drawing a blank on the name now, but I started reading it after this friend of mine mentioned it, and I was reading through one of his like about sections, and it was bizarre because it was a site that I'd never been on before, but it was written in a similar way as mine, where he was talking about how, he reached a similar point where he was looking for, you know, any kind of resource for young men trying to better themselves. And he's like, I kept finding stuff like Esquire and Playboy, and it wasn't really interested in making men better so much as just like showing them, here's the latest sports event, here's this hot chick. And it's like, yeah, but maybe we need more than this. And it wasn't always this way. Like, there used to be a lot of good resources for men, and over time they've either gone away, been banned, or like turned more commercial. I mean, there's even a couple that I don't want to name that actually benefit from them greatly over the years, but now it's like they're just interested in selling. And once you start kind of favoring what the advertisers want, a lot of the advice that men need to hear is not palatable to an advertiser. So we're stuck kind of going to these like fringe places. You're never going to hear me on the radio. You're not going to see me on TV. I'm never going to be that mainstream guy, and that's okay. It's almost better to have it where it's a little under the radar, because man, every once in a while I do go a little viral, and the normie people that come find me and just see me at first glance, they get, just the name alone will trigger people. They'll start yelling about, oh, you don't like women, you don't like this. I'm like, listen, calm down. I'm just talking about eating cleaner and working out. All right.
Yeah.
I'm not even the pickup guy. Like, I'm just trying to help men become better men.
Right.
I'm not teaching game, but that's a lot of time that's what their first thought is. And that's what a lot of guys, that's probably like the most common need, right? Guys are like, how do I meet more women? And they always laugh at me when I'm like, well, you need to go hit the gym. And they're like, no, I need to learn how to talk to women. I'm like, no, you need to like fix your own self. Like, you got to get your life in order. Like, you want to hear how women have problems, but you're not ready yet either. You need to fix your own problems. And then the women just kind of come. And it sounds weird at first to hear that, but I've had multiple people, that I've worked with, and they'll come back later on like, dude, I can't believe it, but I started working out better. I started taking care of myself. I started, eating cleaner. And you're right. They kind of just show up. It's like they recognize that you're a different person. You fixed yourself. You got a better confidence. You're living a more interesting life, and that's the real key.
Yeah. Um, as far as like men today in society, and I know we already sort of touched on a couple of these, but like, What are some of these areas that you kind of feel men need the most help in?
Yeah. What do men need the most help in? A lot of it's just like education. So I think guys struggle with porn addiction, and it's that's a complicated issue because sometimes there's deeper seated maybe they feel inadequate or they feel neglected. There's a lot of reasons that can kind of lead to that. That's deeper than just I want to see girls online. Diet's a big one. I really struggled with diet. I grew up drinking Gatorade thinking that was healthy, and then I got older, I'm like, this stuff's sugar water. Like, it's basically uncarbonated soda. um, People really struggle with their diet. Exercising differently, there's so many weird things about exercise that people don't understand. It took me a long time to learn that lifting weights is a better way to lose weight than running. And I talk a lot about running, and people like to give me a hard time about that. They're like, dude, you're not going to lose weight running. And I'm like, I'm not running to lose weight. I'm running because I run Spartan races.
Mm-hmm.
I'm training. There's a difference. I'm not just trying to get shredded. But there's benefits to both. Those are big. Confidence. I see this a lot with younger men, especially people that are growing up with the phones their whole life. They don't know how to hold a conversation. They don't know how to look people in the eye. Something that I used to struggle with. I didn't know how to project my voice. I was constantly speaking quieter and kind of like under my breath, probably because in school I would say stuff that would get me in trouble. So I was used to just kind of like talking just to my buddy and making him laugh and then getting him in trouble. But it's okay to project and be loud and be heard. Sometimes I think people, young men, don't realize that they have a right to be somewhere and to be loud and to make their presence known. Like, there's all this talk about like mansplaining and manspreading, and some of these young men think that they're in the wrong if they're speaking loudly and confidently, and if they're sitting comfortably. So they get timid, they kind of close up and they start talking softer, and it's, well, one, it's not attractive to women because like on a biological level, there's a reason why they're attracted to those guys that are loud and confident. They need someone who's willing to stand up for them. Like, this guy can't speak loudly. What's he going to do if some guy starts giving his girl a hard time about something? Is he going to like whisper quietly to the guy and be afraid to make his presence known? Like, you need to be able to stand up for yourself, and you don't need to be antagonistic, but it's important to have a presence at the same time.
Yeah. Um, Exercise and diet. What do you think guys are doing wrong there? They're just like you said. I mean, they're sitting there trying to lose weight by running.
Yeah.
Like, I know you generally talk about lifting a lot.
Yep.
And I'm assuming you're a big fan of eating, more meat versus, other crap. So talk on that a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good options for diet. I don't necessarily have like a set diet that people need to go with. My big thing is more tweaking other people's diets. So it's not hard for me to come up with like a perfect diet, but perfect's not realistic and most people aren't going to stick with it. So what worked for me when I was changing my diet was, it was kind of like an elimination diet, I guess. So like the first month I would just look at what I was eating and say like, all right, I'm going to cut out the soda entirely, and I'm going to cut the drinking beers down to this many a week. And I would just focus on that for 30 days. And then after 30 days, I'm like, I'd walk into a gas station, I'd see the sodas or whatever, and wouldn't think twice about it. Like, I don't want it. Even the diets, I think diet soda makes you want to eat more. Like, it's designed that way to make you want to eat more of the chips, which are also made by the same companies, right? And then after that, I moved on to the next thing where it's like, all right, I'm eating too many chips. It's processed food, it's junk. There's not really any nutrients in there. So let's knock that out. But, ideally, you want to get down to where you're eating a high protein diet, more meat, less processed stuff. The big thing is just staying away from sugar. And this is where the education comes in. If you actually start paying attention to what you're buying and looking at all the labels, you'll find that sugar sneaks its way into way more stuff than you realize. I mean, it's in
Mhm.
hot dog buns, it's in all sorts of crazy things that you don't even think about. Even like yogurt, there's a lot of yogurt that like talks like it's healthy, like, hey, it's no fat. I'm like, oh, that's what I want. I want the no fat yogurt. And it's like, well, no fat usually means high sugar. So you got to double check and make sure they're not adding the sugar in it. I'm not one of those psycho guys that thinks that you can't eat fruit because there's sugar in it. It's binded with fiber. It's fine. You can eat some fruit, but I like to say that I eat like paleo pretty much. I eat like a natural diet, but at the same time, I'll eat some chips and salsa at the Mexican restaurant and drink a beer. I'm not 100% adherent to it. I'm realistic, and
Right.
it lets me stick with the diet.
Yeah, you're just a lot more conscious and aware of kind of what you're putting in your body, and you set limits.
Yeah, yeah, and one thing that I've been doing, I run this men's community called the Spartan Tribe, and this month we've been really focusing on like tracking our calories. So this is something I've kind of dreaded doing for a long time, but there's another trainer that I work with, and she's been giving me a hard time about my diet because she knows that I work out really hard, but I'm sneaking in more food than I realize. She goes, just start tracking your diet, start tracking every little calorie, every little meal, and you'll start noticing like what you can and can't do. And there's been times where like I'll get to like the end of the day or something, I'm looking down at my calories and I'm like, well, I'm kind of hungry. I want to eat something, but I'm done. I've had enough today. And it's not even necessarily that I need to tell myself no. It's more like I need to tell myself it's okay. You've eaten enough today. You're not actually hungry. You just think you are. And just being aware of it's not, I think a lot of guys think it's like a discipline thing where it's like, I can't stop eating. And it's more like you don't know that you need to stop.
Hmm.
And like, I'm not going to bed hungry. I'm not having a hard time eating it. I'm not trying to, lose a ton of weight or anything. I'm just trying to keep the right amount of calories, get the right amount of protein, and just being aware of it makes a huge difference. I use this app called MyFitnessPal. I think it's by Under Armour or something, and it's amazing. You just like search in the little thing, like whatever you're eating, and like I don't, I eat a lot of homemade stuff, and I can still mostly find the meals I'm eating. It'll track down the calories, the fat, the protein, the sugar, all that stuff, and it links with the exercise that I do. So like, normally I'm eating like 2,700 calories, but the other day I climbed a mountain and I did some cardio stuff in the morning, and it was like telling me I needed to eat closer to 4,000 that day.
Wow.
It's kind of cool to see like what you can do to, like, maybe you do want to eat more, maybe you do want to go out and drink with your buddies that weekend. There's things you can do to kind of, work around that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's cool that it adjusts with your routines. Speaking of routines, one of the things I've heard you say is, men need hardships.
Yes.
Talk on that a little bit, because that's kind of an interesting one.
Yeah, yeah, hardships is big. So um when I first moved up here, I joined a Taekwondo academy. And I mean, originally it was just to get my kids involved in it because it was good for me when I was growing up. And then as I was talking to the guy that runs the place, like, you should join. And I'm like, yeah, all right, maybe I'll do that. And he goes, no, just do it. Like, don't say maybe, like, yeah, get in. I'm like, yeah, all right, yeah,
He's a
I'm
good
in.
salesman.
Yeah, yeah, he is. He's aggressive, in a good way. And it didn't even cost anything extra. He just wanted me involved. And I've been doing that for like 4 years now. And what's cool about doing something like that is when you join something like, combat, basically. I mean, we're not like beating each other up, really. It's not Fight Club, but when you're doing a shared struggle with other people, even though I didn't grow up in this community, I've wedged myself in, and now I'm really tight with all these people because we've gone through all this stuff together. We train together twice a week or whatever it is, and we work with these kids and help them out. And by having that shared experience, that's how you really forge like meaningful relationships. And then through that, I started doing Spartan races with a few of the people in these academies too. And that's when I really started getting closer with the guy that runs the place and his wife, and then some other guys that have joined us from time to time as well. And I really realized that going through a challenge like that really forms a strong bond. It makes you feel really confident about yourself, and it pushes you in a way that most people never do. Most guys go to the gym, like, maybe not guys that we talk to too often, but the average man will go to the gym, and what does he do? He does some squats, he does some curls, he does some bench press, and he keeps adding 2.5 to 5 pounds every time he does. It's nothing crazy, right? When I went to do these Spartan races, like, I can't just say I don't feel like doing leg day today. I don't feel like doing this. Oh, it's raining. I'm not going to go to the gym. First time I went and ran the Spartan race. For those that don't know, it's like an obstacle course race, right? Like a Tough Mudder. The one I did was 4 miles, and it was down in Atlanta, and it was raining that day. It was like 50 degrees. They don't care. You keep going. It's outside. It's fine. And it challenges you in these ways that you think that you're not even capable of. I had to climb a rope, like a 25-foot rope or something like that. I'd never done that before in my life, but I just kept pushing myself, training. I was trying to eat as good as I could, lost a lot of weight. And ultimately I did get through that. I climbed this rope all the way to the top, and even though it's only 25 feet, dude, I'm definitely afraid of heights. They had us they had to scale this cliff, like this big cargo net cliff. And I mean, it was tall. Which wasn't a particularly physically challenging thing, but just getting through that was like a feat for me. And when you go through a challenge like that, you start realizing these things that you've been telling yourself has been all these, they've been lies. Like people go, "Oh, I'm not a runner." I'm like, yeah. Whenever people say that to me, I always go, yeah, me too. I wasn't a runner either. But then I ran a 5K, then I ran a Spartan race. Last November I ran a marathon, but I'm not a runner.
Yeah.
You are what you repeatedly do, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
I definitely subscribe to that idea that you kind of you are whatever you identify with. And
yes.
I heard that one time, and that's what made me quit smoking cigarettes. Was I had to tell myself, I'm a non-smoker. Like I don't smoke.
There you go.
And I went from a pack a day for 11 years to, damn near cold turkey. I mean,
You were a real smoker. That's a lot.
yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, and because I knew that if I was going to keep flirting with it, doing the
Yeah.
one or two a day, or maybe smoke on weekends with drinks or something, I was like, I'm never going to
Yeah.
quit. I've
Yeah.
got to identify as a non-smoker if this is going to happen. And
That's awesome, man.
yeah, I
That's
mean,
that's one of the hardest things to give up. I've done it before. A couple times.
yeah.
But yeah, that's I don't know, man. I haven't like really gotten into drugs that much, but that might be the hardest thing I've ever done is quit smoking.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, there's times I still miss it. I got my buddies who still smoke,
Yep.
and sometimes I smell that cigarette. I'm like, oh man, that would be great right now. Or after a big
Yeah.
meal, I'm
You,
like,
you you
yeah,
never get past that, I think. Like
yeah,
it's always with you. But then
right.
like if you ever do give in and you have that cigarette when you get done, it's not as good as you thought it was going to be.
Oh no, one time it was a couple years back. I took a drag because I was like, let me see that, and and that was like almost immediately. I was like,
Yeah.
shouldn't have done that. Nope, that was
Instant
gross.
regret.
Yeah, instant regret. I was like, no, you can have it, man. I'm glad I quit. It's all you. I'm done. Yeah, I was pretty sick.
Yeah.
Um,
It holds you back, it holds you back from your life in a lot of ways.
for
These
sure.
things that we think we like, maybe you want to be a smoker, but then like you also want to run long distance. You want to push yourself in the gym, and no matter how much you like it, it's not what you love, and it's going to hold you back from the things that you love.
Yeah, I like that. So while we're talking about habits, let's talk about video games. Uh, Video games is not a problem for me. I haven't had a console since a PS2. If that
Yeah.
kind of tells you how long it's been.
Yeah.
My
15
son's got,
years.
huh?
Like 15 years.
Yeah, it's been a while, and it's just because I knew that when I have a game and a console and everything that I enjoy, like that's all I'm gonna do. I'm a huge fan of
Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
If you sit me down in front of it, I'll sit there and go for till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
It's fun. Um,
It
you
is
know,
fun, man.
and
Yeah.
my son's got the Wii and the Switch and all that, and that's cool. That's fine. And I'll mess with him on some Wii golf and crap like that. But
Yeah.
um, for me, I don't play video games just because I know how time consuming they can be for me. So
Yeah.
um,
I can't handle it. Like, I can do a lot of things. Like, if I really wanted to, I could be the guy that would smoke on the weekend and drink, and then for the next 3 months not do it again. Like, I
mhm.
wouldn't be afraid to get back into it. But like, I was kind of like redoing my office area here, and I took down my TV and I unplugged my game systems, and I'm like, I'm gonna leave it like this for a little while. It's kind of nice because I still play games every once in a while, but like, it's just it's just a waste of time for me, and I don't self-regulate as well as I like to think I do, because there's times where I won't, but then there's times where I'm bored and I think I got the free time and I'll play, and it's just when I get done, it's like I didn't get anything done today. This is a wasted day.
Yeah.
And even if I have nothing to do, like there's still better things I can do. So um I found a lot of really good healthy replacements for gaming, like this writing and creating stuff and talking to people online, doing these podcasts. Like this is much more fulfilling to me than gaming. And I'm not saying you can't game. I got one of those new Xbox things over there, and it hasn't been plugged in for probably about a month or so. But I was playing the new Halo on it, and it's awesome. It's fun, but like I gotta create a system where I can do it and then stop. And I don't know what it is yet. And I'm also realizing this is gonna be a tough year for a lot of people. And
In what way?
um so I'm an economist, and I'm seeing a lot of interesting things. So we're having inflation like we've never seen before, and we're kind of coming out of this whole you know this thing that made people sick, whatever you want to call that. We
Mm-hmm.
don't have to use the word. And everyone's kind of struggling to get back into their routines and stuff. So there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of volatility, which means opportunity. And I think I'm going to make a lot of money trading between crypto and stocks and different things. And I'm just looking at the games thinking like it's just a distraction. I got more important stuff to do. So I'm kind of sidelining that stuff for now. But eventually I'll get back into it. Um that was another thing I quit when I was coming out of my divorce. I kind of forget about this, but I spent a lot of time gaming back then. If I had nothing else to do, I just play video games. And I was never like an addict, but I would probably play 10 to 20 hours a week, which is a lot. It adds up. And then when I was going through my divorce, I just knew I didn't have time for it. So I told myself I found a website called Game Quitters, and they had this idea of doing like a 90-day gaming detox, just to see if you can do it, just test out and show the differences between your life with gaming and without. Because gaming is a really insidious habit because it's not a bad habit. So smoking makes you sick or whatever, it can kill you. Drinking can cause DUIs and all sorts of whatever. Gaming just kind of makes time travel happen for you. Nothing
Yeah.
really changes. There's not a lot of guys that have had their lives ruined by gaming, just not better. So it's really easy to justify the habit. And most people are fine. You don't have to quit gaming, but this is like where I get my biggest pushback. So I quit for 90 days, and 90 days turned into 500. And in that time, lost 25 pounds, ran my first 5K. I created a website. I wrote a book. And you start realizing all the things that you can do when you have that extra time.
Right.
So,
Yeah. A
so
lot of
I
people
like,
don't.
yeah, I push back at people hardcore whenever they're like, "Oh, I don't have time to do this." I go, "Show me your calendar. What are you doing?" Because you got the same amount of time I have.
Mm-hmm.
We all have the same amount of time. Just find the time to do it. If you really want it, you'll find the time to do it. When I wrote my first book, I would wake up at like 6 in the morning and like just sit down in front of the computer an hour or two before I went to work and started hammering out, 500 words a day, 1,000 words a day, whatever I had time for. If you really want something, you do find time to do it.
Yeah. Getting out in nature is pretty good for us. I think
Yeah.
you wrote in a couple blogs on that.
Oh yeah.
I've seen your post about every guy should own a Jeep. And so just kind of like tell us a little bit about like what that is to you, what it means and how it's benefited you.
Yeah. I've done both sides too. I've lived downtown. I've been in the city. I love it. I love Chicago. Um, I lived in this little beach resort for a little while. I've been everywhere, but I live out in the middle of nowhere. I'm in the woods on the side of a mountain in Tennessee, and it's a different life. I did that years ago too, so I got ahead of the whole moved out of the city thing that people are doing now. But it's a more peaceful life. You seeing more green, like literally just seeing more green stuff is actually like calming for people. and you don't have to deal with the traffic and crazy neighbors. I mean, there's still issues, like it's not perfect. So if you're a young guy, it presents a lot of challenges in that, like there's nothing within 10 minutes of me. If I want to go get gas, I gotta drive 10 minutes. If I wanted to meet a girl, it would be a challenge because I'd have to go out, meet her, convince her to come back. And it's like, there's some advantages to being in the city.
Mm-hmm.
But I think ultimately most guys really do want to get back to like their natural habitat. And this is how humans used to live their life, like out in the woods or in nature. And I do a lot of my exercising this way. I'll either go for a run through the woods, I'll find a hiking trail. I run long enough that I usually go on biking trails actually. And it's peaceful, it's serene. You hear people say like, oh, I can't run, I get bored. I'm like, well, go somewhere interesting. Like there's some cool places to go see. um I went and got TSA pre-check about a month ago, and I had to drive. The closest place to me was closed for some reason, so I had to drive like almost 2 hours to go find the nearest one. And I got I got my thing approved real quick, and I was like looking around the area. I'm like, hey, I'm here. It's just stupid to drive here and then just drive back. What can I do? And I was like literally a quarter mile away from this like mountain. I'm like, oh, let's go climb a mountain. Why not? And I'm in Tennessee, or actually I was in Georgia at the time. So climbing a mountain is not like climbing the rock cliff, right? It's just walking uphill for a long time, which is also surprisingly hard. Um, but it's a neat little thing to do, and there's kind of a cool spiritual like shift that happens when you climb a mountain. I don't know, it's weird. There's a bug flying around. I'm not like insane. And there's like this cool shift that happens when you climb a mountain. There's it's just there's something kind of profound that happens when you get outside and you get to the top, and it sounds cheesy, but it feels really encouraging to reach the top of something like that and kind of look out. And not that it's super hard. I mean, most guys can do it. It's not that challenging. It's a neat little physical manifestation of like the mindset that most guys need to have.
Mm-hmm. It's cool, man. Yeah, I enjoy getting out. I'm over here on the Gulf Coast of Texas, so I do a lot of fishing over in the Gulf of Mexico, do a lot of camping. Don't have anything to really hike, unfortunately, around here. It's pretty flat in Houston. So if I want to do any hiking, I've got to go elsewhere. But yeah, I definitely enjoy it.
There's probably some cool nature trails or something. I mean, even just I do a lot of running at like college campuses. Whenever I'm traveling and stuff, I think those are neat because they're a little bit more friendly to pedestrian traffic, and it's just kind of a nice energy being around. Young people, they're still energetic about life.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of cool places you can find to get out.
It's true. We're going to switch gears a little bit, sort of talk about the brand of Path to Manliness. I know we kind of touched on it at the beginning, but like,
right.
Let's see. Well, first, before I get there, let me just go back to writing real quick. You have some tips to guys who kind of want to get started in writing, and how should they go about doing it?
Yeah, it's hard. I mean,
I know because I've tried, and yeah, like I said, it's hard to just keep the habit.
Yeah. So there's like two types of writing. There's like writing for like the brand and like creating stuff, and that's a challenge. I mean, honestly, you're probably better off like writing, getting a coach or a guide or something, kind of like there's a lot of cheap guides you can find out there, and I know people don't want to spend the money sometimes, but you'll learn a lot in a little $20 ebook that will help you get started. But then there's journaling, which I think is what most guys want. I actually wrote a book about this with my friend Paul Dominic, and yeah, it was surprising. I didn't think people were going to buy it, but it sold really well. And I think the hardest part of writing is really just starting. So what I tell a lot of guys when they first start writing is don't try to like write the whole page. Don't try to write 500 words. Just write something. So I found this cool idea from Reddit, of all places, back when Reddit was not insufferable, but it's called My Daily Three. And the idea is you just write down three things you did today. So today I haven't done much today because I've been busy, but let's go with yesterday. So yesterday, I worked out in the morning, and then I took my dog for a walk in the woods, and then whatever my third thing would be, hung out with my kids or something. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's not the most interesting thing, but the cool thing about this habit is, one, it gets you like the muscles flowing where you're writing, and you'll find like if you keep doing this every day, you start writing a little bit more each time as you get more descriptive. You start wanting to like make more notes of other interesting things you do. And then the really cool thing about this habit is that it motivates you to do something interesting, because you don't want to pull open your notebook and say, I watched 8 hours of Game of Thrones. Like, it's kind of depressing to look back and see that. And maybe you do. But then if you do it a second time in a row, now you're like, all right, this is not a healthy trend. Maybe tomorrow I'm going to go for a walk. It's like, at
Yeah.
least say I went for a walk and then I watched Game of Thrones or whatever. Um, so that's a good start. And it sounds weird, but like after you start writing and start doing it consistently, the problem goes from like, I don't know what to write about, to like, I don't have the time to write about everything I want to write about. Because now, like, you can look at my website like, oh, I haven't published anything since Jan 18. But like, if you go to my Evernote, I've been writing constantly, constantly, constantly. I'm just not publishing because I'll write an idea here and I don't fully flesh it out. I don't fully finish it. And then the problem just becomes like finishing your thoughts and actually like organizing it. So um there's a lot of different ways to write too. I know some people like to type and it's easier in a lot of ways, but there's some kind of a change that happens when you write with pen and paper. So I recommend just getting a moleskin notebook, or some cheap little college ruled notebook and the pen, and just trying to write that way. That's a great way to start. It's a powerful habit. And what's cool is you'll start rereading your stuff from like 6 months to a year ago. And if you're going in the right direction and actually improving your life, you notice the changes. You'll be like, I don't even remember being this person. Like, these struggles are so insignificant to me now. But back then, I remember like really having a hard time with it. It creates a lot of interesting perspectives, and it leaves like a cool legacy for your kids, or I mean, even for your future self. There's times where I've reread stuff that I wrote like a year or two ago, and I'm like, dude, I kind of needed to hear that. I completely forgot that I even wrote that.
Hmm.
It's a cool thing. And it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to set aside an hour. I would say set aside 5 minutes and just write down a couple thoughts. And then if you want to grow it from that, grow it from that. But make the habit something that's easy to start and you'll actually stick with it.
Yeah. And it can be about anything.
Yeah. You don't have to publish it. You don't have to share it. You can throw it in a fire after you get done. I've done that. I've written something. I'm like, I'm burning this now.
That's interesting. Yeah. Never really thought of doing that, just destroying it as soon as I write it. But yeah, why
Yeah.
not? Right.
Well, maybe you're mad at somebody. You write an angry letter to them. You get it out and you look at it and you're like, I don't want them to read this. Then you just get rid of it. But
Yeah.
once you start writing, it helps you get a lot of stuff off your chest, a lot of emotions. Whenever I'm my most overwhelmed and most stressed out, I'll write it all out. Like, what am I worried about? I just write it all down. You kind of get it off your head and onto paper. And now it's like, I don't have to worry about it. I can just look at that piece of paper later on if I need to remember it.
I know you've written some things about women, picking women, choosing women, and crazy women. Um, I think that's
They're
always a
out there.
good. Yeah. Are they really?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Share kind of some of your thoughts on choosing the right partner, whether that's just dating or wife or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. That's a tough one. I want to first say that like there's a lot of great women out there. I think guys get really fixated on like all women are sluts, they're all drunks, they're all crazy. But like sometimes that's a reflection on the guy. Maybe he's looking in the wrong places. So if you're constantly going out drinking with your buddies and you're meeting girls at 2 a.m. at the local watering hole, you're not getting the cream of the crop. Like, people be like, oh, these girls, they all got crazy high, um, sexual histories and all that stuff. Like, I still meet college girls and older that are like virgins and stuff. Like, they're still out there. There's
Mhm.
plenty of people that are more wholesome than people think. Um, I think the big thing is one to start looking in better places. And what I've noticed with a lot of guys that really struggle to meet women is their habits are drinking, jerking off, and playing video games. And you're not going to meet high quality girls drinking. You're probably not going to meet any girls playing video games. And I hope you're not meeting any girls when you're jerking off. So, but I couldn't help myself in that one.
That's good. That's good.
But you just gotta get a more interesting life. So you gotta go out and do stuff. So joining a gym, taking taekwondo, finding a rec league. There's these guys that play pickleball in my town, and I see them when I go running like almost every Sunday or Saturday, and like it looks like the time of their life. Like it looks like a fun time. I don't know what the age group is like. Maybe it's older people, but there's cool stuff happening that you don't even realize, and those are the best places to meet people because then you have a shared interest.
Yeah.
You don't want to meet a girl that's at a bar and then like what's she into, like I don't know, she writes fan fiction for Twilight. But if you go out and it's like, well, at least we got we got pickleball together, so we got something in common. That's a natural way to meet people. You don't have to do the online dating thing. I don't think it's a good way for men to go about it. I feel like your odds are just really stacked against you.
Doing Tinder and all
um
that.
yeah, I don't think it's great. I know some people like it, but I just think the odds are stacked against you, and some guys really struggle with it. You gotta be like an expert photographer and a copywriter. Dude, if I really want to get into the online dating game when I was younger, knowing what I know now, I would
Mhm.
probably hire a copywriter to create my whole profile and bio, and then I would hire a woman who's a professional photographer and have my like shots done like I was getting like an actor's resume set up for Hollywood. Like I would go all out, and you'd probably clean up, but I don't think you're getting the best quality girls out there. And I don't know. It's fun to have a cool story when you meet somebody. I've never met a girl that I dated seriously through online dating. Every girl I've met just organically through friends. I've met one or two at a bar, but that was again more like it was through friends. Um, I've met people at some interesting things like at conventions, different fun things. But as far as like looking for a high quality girl, I think first a lot of guys are really fixated on just attractiveness, and there's nothing wrong with that. You need the initial attraction, but you also need the girl that you want to hang out with on Saturday morning too, not just Friday night. See, the one thing that I completely didn't think about when I was younger was I didn't think about her being the mother of my child, and I would have dated and pursued women very differently if I was thinking that way. And in my defense, I didn't plan on having kids for a while. It was when I got older that I decided I wanted to have kids. Um, but the older you get, the less you care about the looks and the crazy sex or whatever, and you start thinking more about like, do I want to sit through a movie with this girl? Do I want to go on a hike with this girl? Do I trust her to be with my kids alone when I go to a bachelor party for a weekend? That's a big one
Mhm.
because I my ex-wife, like whenever I was away and like for more than a day or so and she had the kids, like it gave me like real anxiety, and I'm not an anxious person, but it made me uncomfortable. And now I don't have that. Now I've got a girl that I can trust. And like, man, that's worth its weight in gold. If you can trust a girl, you don't have to worry about any of these pickup artist guys say online about how all girls are sluts or whatever. Like, you're not worried because you just know what you have and you know that you've got a good thing.
Mhm.
So man, it's the hardest thing you're gonna do. I had this guy in college, this professor, and he gave us this awesome list of like 25 things every man should or every person should remember. I lost it. I don't know. It's somewhere, but I can't find it. I've been looking for it. But I remember the first thing he said was pick, be very careful who you choose to marry. And then the second one was be very careful who you choose to marry. And I mean, it's going to change the course of your life. It's probably the most important decision anybody's going to make. It's
Yeah.
not it's not unfixable because I've made that mistake, but it's tough. And it cost me a lot, but I got through it and I came out a much more interesting and better person for it. So I don't have any complaints.
Mhm.
but I wouldn't recommend anyone do what I did. There's probably a better path forward.
You mean separate?
Going through a divorce, it's not a pretty thing. It's just not.
Yeah,
It's not. It's just tough. It takes a lot of time. Takes a lot of energy. Takes a lot of money. And I don't know anyone that's been through it and come out the same person. They change. It's really interesting. Most people don't come out better. I got lucky. I did. Maybe not in every way, but overall, I'm pretty happy with who I am today, more so than I was before.
that's awesome, man. It's good. Yeah, I mean, I've got my curious things, but I don't know you well enough to really dig there, man. And I'm sure you don't want to like dwell all on the internet, so I'll refrain from that. But I'm glad you're well on the other side. Because
Yeah, that's how I feel about it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, the brand Path to Manliness. Is there a reason why I guess you kind of definitely stay behind the scenes, it seems like. You know what I mean? Like your name
Yeah,
doesn't really even come up too much. It's not very in your face. You're not like, hey guys, it's Ryan Felman. It's like
yeah.
it's definitely like a pseudonym or whatever.
It is. Yeah. And I like refer to myself as Path to Manliness more than my name. There's a lot of reasons. I one day I might decide to fade away and just kind of become more under the radar. And by doing this, it makes it easier to walk away from it. It also it also helps me kind of avoid some of the crazy people. So, like, if you first stumble onto my Twitter account, my website, any of that stuff, you don't see my name or my face, you don't know who I am. Actually, I get a lot of flack for this. People will be like, post physique, post your face. And I'm like, I do, and I'll post it. I posted a video of myself bench pressing the other day to some guy that said something and I blocked him. You can go on my website. If you scroll down, I mean, on the first page is a picture of me, but I like to kind of keep it under the wraps. I don't need everyone to see it. I'm not really, I don't want fame. It's not really about me. I'm trying to help people. And I think it's important that they see me because I don't want them to think that I'm some fat slob that's just writing stuff. Like, I want them to know that I actually do live the life that I talk about. At least 95% of it. I mean, I have my moments,
Sure,
but
we all do.
I'm in shape. I've got the same waist size I had when I was 18. I'm a lot stronger. I can run, I can do a lot of the stuff, so I don't need to hide that. But I don't need like the crazy people coming after me. I mean, I already got some guy sent me like a fan mail letter one time to my actual address, which I don't give out. But I got his too, so I guess it's even. There's just crazy people out there, and I mean, I got 90,000 Twitter followers. I got
Mhm.
50,000 on Instagram. At some point, it's a numbers game where you kind of want to hide yourself at least a little bit.
Yeah, when I originally did my Twitter thing, I had some stupid name called like, and I just came up with it on a fly or something. It was like subtle changes to success or something
That's
like
not
that.
bad. I've heard a lot worse.
Yeah, and then I just kind of quickly turned it into the Jeremy Kersten show, and
Yeah.
I don't really know what that was about. I don't know if it was a vanity thing. I don't know if I wanted a little, I mean, maybe a part of me wanted some recognition, or something
Yeah.
like that. I don't
That's
know.
fair.
I was just curious to kind of why, you chose to be a little bit more behind the scenes with it. And I think it's worked out for you. Like,
It has.
I think it's got its advantages. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very recognizable logo. Like, I got lucky with that part. And it's probably more memorable than my name. And I don't mind that. Some people don't even know who my name is. That's cool.
mhm.
And but there's power in authenticity. So I try to lean on a little bit of both, where I do want to show myself. I do things a lot differently than everybody else. I'm a contrarian by nature, probably. So like a lot of guys like to post themselves deadlifting or show themselves shirtless, like just shredded. And I don't know, maybe I'm old fashioned, but like I'm in a relationship with this girl and I've been with her for a long time, and I kind of feel weird posting myself shirtless online. Also, it's a strange vanity thing I don't like to do. So like I like to post results, so I don't really post a lot of pictures of myself working out or shirtless, but I'll share like the last Spartan race I ran. I came in the top 10%. And I think that to me, that's more important than having a shredded six pack, which I actually don't have. Close though, we're getting there. But it's to me, I'd rather be able to do stuff than to look like I do stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's not the most popular thing to do on social media, but it is a different lane. So maybe that's beneficial. I don't know. I kind of struggle with this sometimes. So when I first started the brand, one of the things I thought made me more successful was very relatable. And a lot of guys saw how they could go from where they were to where I was, because I was still in that, like, I'm just running a 5K, I'm lifting, I'm still losing weight, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I don't realize it, but I'm like day by day getting farther and farther away from that relatability, I mean, I ran a marathon last year, and to me that doesn't seem that weird to me, but I Googled it, and like less than 1% of the world's ever run a marathon.
Yeah. Marathon's what, 21 miles?
26.2.
20, dude, that, yeah,
Oh, it
kudos to
was
you,
hard.
man. That sounds hard.
Believe it or
Uh,
not, the first 15 were easy because that's what I was used to. The last 10 was like a bitch. I really struggled.
yeah, I can't imagine it. I've done 5Ks, I've done a handful of them, and they're
Do a
doable,
half do a
you
half
know.
marathon or a 10K. Those are fun. You got to be a little insane to want to do a marathon.
Yeah.
And then the dumb thing is, and I'm not 100% committed to this yet, but like part of me wants to do an ultra Spartan race, which is like, I don't know. It's basically a marathon with obstacles
Hmm.
in the woods.
Yeah. Good
So
luck,
I don't know.
man.
I'm not, we'll see.
Let me know how it goes.
I won't do it at my current weight. I'll say that. If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna like really cut for that one. Because I work out a lot.
Hmm.
That's the thing. Like some of these guys out there running are like lifting hard. But I mean, I ran that marathon at I think like 190 or 195 pounds. I wasn't lean.
Hmm.
And I don't want to be. I don't want to be skinny. Like
Yeah.
I like being physically capable.
Yeah. Yeah. For me personally, I've gone from, I was like 5'11" in high school, height, and my weight was like 135. I mean, I was a skinny
Wow.
little dude, right? And
Wow.
then over the past whatever 17, or shoot, yeah, 17, 18 years, I've filled out more, and now I'm like actually working at bulking. I'm trying to eat more proteins, and I'm
Yeah.
focusing on lifting way more than I am on cardio and running and stuff. And I'll still do a treadmill for like literally like 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, it's not my focus at all, but
Boring.
yeah.
Do you like sprints? Sprints are more fun.
Yeah, I
You can
thought about
you can
doing
go
that.
out. I like to go out. I need to do this more because this is probably more like how you actually run in the Spartan race. But I like to go out and I'll run. Sometimes I just run a 5K. I just go out there and run because it's more about like meditation, where I'm just kind of getting out of my head and ignoring the world for 30 minutes. But like this last Friday or Tuesday or whenever I last went running, I would go jog. No, I ran hard. No, I ran hard for 5 minutes. I ran like a good solid mile in like 7.5, 8 minutes. And then I walked for 0.05 miles, not very long. I think it ends up being like 30 seconds to a minute. And then I ran hard for a quarter mile. And then I walked 0.05. And I did that over and
Hmm.
over again until I got to 3.11 miles. And that's a more fun way to run. And it's probably better for you in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of different things lately about like, go all out for 30 seconds and then walk
Yeah.
30 and then sprint
It's
30
kind
and
of like
walk
the
30.
whole like Tabata or hit
Yeah,
idea, high intensity interval training.
right. I,
It's
I haven't really tried it yet, but it like you said, it sounds like a lot more fun. It's something
yeah.
different to switch it up, and there's that benefit in having that kind of like that blast, just because like it can help you with speed and things like that,
Mhm.
and agility and so on
Yeah,
and so forth.
absolutely. It's a more fun way to work out. It's good to change it up too. That's another thing that a lot of guys don't do is they don't change their workouts enough. Like after like every
Yeah.
6 to 8 weeks, like your muscles kind of just get used to it, and
Hmm.
you're not gaining anything. So, but it's hard. I mean, you get stuck in a routine. you almost have to like set like a alarm on your phone every like 8 weeks to remind yourself.
Yeah, do something different,
Mm-hmm.
huh? So you've got what, 4 or 5 books out?
I don't even know. You know what? I've got like two main ones that I think about. So I got the Reclaim Your Manhood, which is what I think guys should start with. It's a really simple, easy to read book. I mean, the average guy could probably knock it out in a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then some guys that just don't read, maybe they just read like a couple chapters a day, and like you can still knock it out real quick. And I got the Warrior's Mindset. Those are the two big ones, I think. And then I got a few ebooks that I wrote too. One of them's free.
But
How to escape the
those first two are published.
Those two are published. You can
Okay.
buy them on Amazon. You can buy them on Gumroad. They've done pretty well. So I like to tell people to start with Reclaim Your Manhood. That's the big one. So I want to write a third one, like a kind of a successor to those two, I guess. But I I don't have like a good, like, I don't know. That one's gonna be a big one. Like that's gonna be like a more serious book. I'm gonna spend some time on it. It might be done in a year. It might be done in 10 years. So that's one of those books that I think it's a good idea,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to do it wrong. So I'm probably gonna spend too much time on it.
Makes sense. Well, that's cool, man. I mean, I hope you find some time to get around to doing that, because yeah, it'd be cool.
Yeah. Thank you. It'll get there. It'll get done.
So
So
you've got a couple books, you've got coaching.
yes. Yeah, I do two types of that actually. I help guys just, become in better shape. I can train you for a Spartan race. I can just help you kind of get your life more focused, create like a good system that helps you achieve what your goals are, whether it's losing weight, getting stronger, meeting more interesting people. And then I also do like the personal branding, where I can help you with social media, with email marketing. I man, after the last couple of years, I'm really committed to the whole online world. Like I think there's a lot of power in owning your own virtual real estate. And it can be as simple as just having an email list, a YouTube channel, even just a Twitter account. I mean, I knew now, if I knew when I was younger what I know now, like I would have gone way harder into creating content online. But
Mhm.
it's hard when you're young too. I don't think I had the stories yet to really talk about stuff online.
Yeah, good point. So when you say that you're helping people with social media marketing, are you like literally running their ads and all that kind of stuff? Or are you just kind of telling them like, hey, this is what I see you're doing wrong, and here's how to fix it?
I like more of that. I like more of the here's what you're doing wrong, here's how to fix it. Um, I can take somebody that has some content already and really flesh it out. Like, here's what you've done, here's how you can do it better, here's how you can recycle it. Because I know a lot of people that do really well in one area. And
Hmm.
it's like, hey, have you thought about using Instagram? And they're like, no, it's only for girls. I go, no, that's where I get a lot of my sales, dude. Like, there's guys on there too, and they're on there a lot. Not only are they on there a lot, like it's 1.2 billion people on Instagram. Instagram's great. That's a powerful one. Email marketing. Yeah, I think everybody should have something, like it's just, even if it's not something you necessarily use for money or anything, like just you should own your name.com. And if not that, maybe come up with a brand and just every once in a while post something cool. Like,
Hmm.
maybe even just something simple like, hey, here's what I learned this week, or here's what I did, like write about your first time doing something. Today I tried this, today I did that. Here's a cool recipe I learned, here's how I lost this. Simply finding a problem in your life, solving it, and sharing the results will get you an audience. If you do that consistently, you'll get a pretty good audience. That's I don't even know why I'm sharing this, but whatever. When I write online, my basic template is I start with the problem. I write down the symptoms of the problem. And then the big thing that a lot of people forget is at the end, I put a solution to the problem. And like, if you follow that simple idea, you'll write things that are pretty popular. And that translates to anything. You can do that with storytelling. You can do that with YouTube videos. But ultimately, like that's what people are looking for. They're looking for a problem that they're struggling with. They want to make sure it's what they're struggling with. So they want to see the symptoms, the pain points, and then they want to see a solution. That was a mistake I made when I was first starting to write. I would complain about something and then not offer a solution. It's like, well, now it's not an article, it's just a rant. which I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I like to rant. but I want to have, ultimately you want to have a solution. I think that's a sign of maturity, is when you start recognizing problems and then coming up with a solution instead of just like, it's easy to go like, oh, we should have flying cars by now. It's like, all right, what's your solution? Because the real solution is like, we don't want to have fender benders at 2.5 miles above your head. So what happens when the tire falls off? It's never gonna happen.
Yeah.
But it's really easy to complain about things without offering a solution.
That's true. I try to put all that together myself, my brand anyways. Like if you go to jeremykersten.com, yeah, it's there. It exists. And my Instagram, I think, funnels into it automatically. But, I haven't really physically gone to the website to update it like in months. It's just back there on the back burner. And then, I'm pretty inconsistent with Instagram. I don't know. And then Facebook, I never use. I hate Facebook. I don't know
Dude,
what it is.
I hate Facebook. I can't figure it out. And then their stock dropped 30%. I'm like, maybe I made the right bet. So I wouldn't bet too hard on Facebook. I mean, I know they own Instagram, but Instagram's way, way more popular. Facebook's kind of like the older audience, which is weird.
Yeah.
Instagram's definitely the more happening place.
Yeah.
And
man, just the
I
stuff,
get
the
an
stuff
overwhelming.
That's like, go ahead.
I get like an overwhelming amount of messages on Instagram. Like it's out of control.
Really?
Yeah, and a lot of it's just noise. Like sometimes it's just people just saying like, "Oh, that's a good point," or "Yeah, 100%." But I look at almost every message on there. I try to respond to some of them. There's some cool people on. I've met a lot of interesting people online.
You'll
So
have to
I
forgive
actually,
me. I haven't been to your Instagram. I can go click on it right
dude,
now. But like, what do you?
if you're a content creator and you see my Instagram, it pisses you off. So all
Oh
I do
yeah.
is I post a
Yep.
screenshot of my tweet.
Yep.
Like I post a popular tweet from the day before. I spend about a minute online on Instagram,
Yeah. I
and
so
it grows.
I was doing that for a while too. I know like Patrick Bet David does a lot of this.
I don't
Um,
know a lot of people that did it before me. I'm sure there was somebody, but I kind of just started doing it because I was being lazy.
yeah.
Remember, I'm an economist, so I was trying to find an efficient way to produce content on Instagram every day, but I just didn't want to deal with it. But it's been good. Like it's been worth my while. And I've met some neat people. I don't scroll. I don't if you ever like actually pay attention to my activity on Instagram, I don't talk to people on there. I just
Mhm.
I post my stuff. I check through my messages briefly and then I get off.
Yeah. And what's beneficial, I'm sure you already know about, but the way that you're posting on here is that it shows like, hey, I'm also on Twitter, you know?
It also, not only that, and the thing that I've told multiple people this and they still don't do it right. I share how many likes and retweets I get on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first started doing this, I remember like having like 1,000 people on Instagram, and people would be like, "Oh, I don't know who this guy is. I've got 1,000 followers." And they're like, "Whoa, he's getting like 300 likes on Twitter. This guy must be worth looking at." And it's instant social proof.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because I think usually when I do it, I just crop out the message in my
Because
little
it's
handle.
cleaner and more aesthetic. But it's better to show that you're worth listening to.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get massive engagement on my stuff. Like there's people that'll hit me up like saying like, "Hey man, I'll do promos for you. You want to do a shout out?" And I'm like, "You got 3 times my followers and half my engagement. Like, what do I want to talk to you for?" Would you buy those guys? Instagram's cool, man. I like it. Once you hit 10,000, you can start doing the swipe up thing.
Mm-hmm.
So like I can put up my story and I can share my tweet and then I can say like, "Hey, I just posted a new video on YouTube. Swipe up." That's really useful.
Yeah,
Like
I wish they would just allow that for everybody, to be
I
honest.
yeah, I do too. I don't know why they don't. I don't get it.
Yeah. There's really
It's
no need. I mean, all you're doing is linking to a website or a video.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, you got to create like I don't know. There's got to be a reason. I don't understand it, but they should let people do that. But once you can get up to 10,000, it becomes powerful, and there's ways to get up there.
So
Um,
let me ask you this. If you're just posting words on here on Instagram, how is your stuff getting caught up in the algorithm?
well, I do it every day.
Hmm.
I do it once a day, and I do it at the same time every day, pretty much. So like my audience is kind of like expecting it, and it doesn't take like a lot of time. Like, it's hard to get somebody to sit down and watch like an hour long video or a podcast or whatever. But the mindless scroll of Instagram, it's really easy to see it, and like it's really quick to like it. So there's not much of a time investment with it. And then I post a lot of stuff that's polarizing. Like my last blog post was why video games are a waste of time. And like I can post comments like that on Instagram, and people can't help themselves but defend their habits. So they'll like tell me why, like, dude, listen, I'm jacked. Like I got laid by a model last weekend, and I was playing some video game. I'm like, that's all really interesting until you get to the video game part. Now I'm bored. So like people just they can't help themselves but engage with it. It's really easy to say things that everyone agrees with when you start putting out content that's like a little bit like some people agree with it, some people think you're wrong, and then they start arguing and fighting. And I don't even engage with the comments too often, but there's times where like 50 to 100 people are responding to it, and I'm just out there living my life. Like it took me a while to get to this point, but I can post on Instagram, close my phone, and I don't worry about what people are saying.
Hmm.
And man, that's one of the biggest life hacks in the world. If you can do that, your life's a lot easier. I really don't care. I
Yeah.
know a lot of people say that, but I really don't. Like I've got a good thing going.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
good, man. I'd say for myself, I'm that way most of the time. When I post
yeah,
something, like especially on my story, I'll post something on the story, and then sometimes like the next day, I'll be like, I wonder how many people looked. And then when I go and it's like it's already been 24 hours, so it's gone, and I'm like, oh well. I'm like, oh well,
let's go
who
to the
knows?
insights. You can still look it up.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes yeah, it still tells you that, huh?
Yeah, but
Um,
I like talking to people. I think Twitter's better for that. Twitter kind of attracts like a more mature audience sometimes.
yeah, there's
But
some weirdos on like I got attacked today, and I went and looked at I went and looked at the guy's profile, and what he was retweeting, these videos are way too graphic and disgusting for me to even want to
yeah,
talk about. And I was like, yeah, this makes sense. Like you would say some
yeah,
stuff like that. You know what I mean?
yeah. People aren't lashing out online because they're happy with their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just I can't. Sometimes I've actually done this a couple of times where I had a tweet that was like blowing up like into thousands of likes and stuff, and it's getting into that weird place, Twitter, and I'm like, I'm gonna delete it. So I know where this is gonna go.
That's funny.
I'd rather almost stay below the radar. It's like after it gets to a certain amount of like engagement, it's like now I'm getting to the people that are just gonna be angry, and like I don't really want them to find me. I want my own people. There's better ways to find people. So I don't know. You start writing the kind of stuff that you actually care about online, like putting out your own ideas. You attract your own audience, and it's really cool. And one thing that I've learned and that I'm really trying very hard to do, especially this year, is I want to have a very good core audience. I don't need a million followers. I'll take, you know, 200 awesome people in the Spartan tribe that I like talking to. That'd be a much better way for me to go. So we're almost halfway there. So we're getting there.
Awesome, man. So what's next for Path to Manliness or next for Ryan Felman? Anything on the
That's
horizon right now?
that's the thing about social media, right? So it's always what's next. I mean, I'm running a Spartan race in Atlanta. That's the next thing. It's gonna be a short one. And I dragged one of my high school buddies into it. It's gonna be his first.
Right on. Cool,
he
man.
doesn't he doesn't know what he's in for. Um I keep saying I want to grow the YouTube channel, and I do an okay job of pumping out some stuff on there. And I'd say my focus right now is on my Spartan tribe. I want to make that awesome, and I'm doing a lot of stuff behind the scenes. I'm working with a couple other like big name guys and trying to build something really special and unique. And it's gonna go big places in time. It's just gonna take a little time to get there. Um, But I don't think people are looking for another book. I don't think people need another blog post. I think people need real community. And that's what I'm trying to build.
So is this Spartan Tribe, is this just like an online meetup? Are you guys meeting in
Yeah.
person or what?
Yeah, it's online. We got a private Telegram channel. We got an online forum. We challenge each other to things different every month. Some guy was challenging us to a chin up challenge, which I have to admit he beat me at. So we got some high value men in there. I mean, these guys work out. They're all jacked. They're all strong, mostly. These are guys that are like pushing themselves, and if they're not, they're getting there. Um, but the in real life meetup thing is coming too. I've got a couple different ideas on that. One is I want to start doing like an in real life Spartan race, but we'll see. I don't know. I'm curious how receptive that will be, because that's already a pretty small group of people
Mm-hmm.
that will even attempt one of those.
Yeah.
Like I think anybody can finish one, but the first time I ran one, it's like the hardest thing I ever did in my life. For the average guy, it's tough. Like you have to do stuff like carry what's an Atlas stone weigh? Like 100 pounds. You got to carry one of those things, pick one up off the mud,
Damn.
climbing a rope, jumping a 10-foot wall, all while running in the mud in the woods. It's some people just don't want to do it.
Yeah.
There's like marathon runners that have come to do like a Spartan race, and they've gotten humbled.
Yeah. I would definitely get my ass handed to me, but
You'd be fine. You'd get through it. There'd be a few obstacles you'd be like, dude, I was not ready for this. But you would get through it.
well, Ryan, I want to thank you for coming on today, man. This has been a good talk. Again, I think a lot of guys can benefit from some of the stuff that you talk about. Hopefully they found some value in today's discussion. They should definitely go check you out on your socials, which is, from my understanding, all of them are at pathtomanliness.com,
everywhere,
at pathtomanliness on Instagram and Twitter. So yeah, man, thank you so much for the discussion and coming on the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jeremy. It was a lot of fun, man. It was
Absolutely.
good talking.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
All right, man. We'll see you.
Well, guys, thank you so much for watching the interview with Ryan Felman. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to hit like if you haven't already, share it with a friend, hit that subscribe button for more videos like this. And also, you can check out other videos that we have by clicking one of them right over here and one of them right over there. And until next time, guys, take care.